Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we continue with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, verse 30. And the chapter is entitled, The Pandavas Retire Timely. We will start with the opening prayers and go straight into the discussion. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo Jayam Vishnupat Paramhamsa Parigvacharya Stota to Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupat Paramhamsa Parigvacharya Stota to Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mai Pradam Ki Jai, Jagnapuri Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nita Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Namane. Namaste Krishna Padaya. Prabhashitatmane. Shri Gaura Karun Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namane. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane. Nirveshesha Shunyavadi. Pashyatya Deshatarane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. As we mentioned that we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, verse 30, and the chapter is entitled, The Pandavas Retire Timely. We are at verse 30, and I will chant the verse 3 times. I request devotees to please chant after me. Gitam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangramamurdhani Kala Karma Tamorudham Purnar Adhyagamat Prabhu Geetam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangramamurdhani Kala Karma Tamorudham Purnar Adhyagamat Prabhu Geetam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangramamurdhani Kala Karma Tamorudham Punar Adhyagamat Prabhu.
Gitam Bhagavata Jnanam Yastat Sangrama Murdani Kala Karma Tamorudham Purna Adhyagamat Prabhu.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Geetam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangramamurdhani Kala Karma Tamoruddham Punar Adhyagatam Prabhu.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to try? It's a pretty simple verse. Not too much tongue twisting. Okay, so I will read we'll go with the synonyms and the translation. Geetam, instructed. Bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead. Jnanam, transcendental knowledge. Yat, which. Tat, that. Sangranamurdhani, in the midst of battle. Kala karma, time and actions. Tamarudham, enwrapped by such darkness. Puna adhyagamat, revived them again. Prabhu, the Lord of his senses. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities, and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case. And again, he became Lord of his senses. Purport. A conditioned soul is enwrapped in his fruitive activities by the force of eternal time. But the Supreme Lord, when he incarnates on the earth, it is not influenced by color or the material conception of past, present, and future. The activities of the Lord are eternal, and they are manifestations of his Atma Maya, or internal potency. All pastimes or activities of the Lord are spiritual in nature, but to the layman, they appear to be on the same level with material activities. It so appeared that Arjuna and the Lord were engaged in the battle of Kurukshetra, as the other party was also engaged. But factually, the Lord was executing his mission of incarnation and association with his eternal friend. Therefore, such apparently material activities of Arjuna did not drive him away from his transcendental position, but on the contrary, revived his consciousness of the songs of the Lord as he sang them personally. This revival of consciousness is assured by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 18:65 as follows. Man manabhava mat bhakto mat yaji mam namaskuru mam eva svavi satyam te pradigyane priyo shime. One should think of the Lord always. The mind should not forget him. One should become a devotee of the Lord and offer obeisances unto him. One who lives in that fashion becomes undoubtedly endowed with the blessing of the Lord by achieving the shelter of his lotus feet. There is nothing to doubt about this eternal truth, because Arjuna was his confidential friend. The secret was disclosed to him. Arjuna had no desire to fight with his relatives, but he fought for the mission of the Lord. He was always engaged in the execution of his mission only. And therefore, after the Lord's departure, he remained in the same transcendental position, even though it appeared that he forgot all the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. And by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. This is the highest perfection of life. Om Agnati Mirandyasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshur Onmalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The translation again. Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities and because of his absence, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case. And again, he became Lord of his senses. As I was preparing for this class, by the mercy of Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, there was a beautiful lecture given by Srila Prabhupada. So whatever little that I'm going to share today is my reflections and realizations from Srila Prabhupada's lectures, 100% verbatim by verbatim. So Srila Prabhupada says the Bhagavad Gita is the instruction given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Arjuna. Therefore, it is called Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada has mentioned that term here, Bhagavad Gita, several times. And he says, just as Arjuna directly heard it from the lips of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, similarly, when we read Bhagavad Gita, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, we should accept it as it is, without interpretation. From this one said this one said this. You know, sometimes when we hear devotees or just people in general say, they say, you know, people say, it is said, it is known. But if we ask them who is the they, they'll say it's the they. But who is the they, right? Who is the it? Who is the it is known? Who are these people? And even when we find the answer of who the they were referring to, we have to ask ourselves, is it from Srila Prabhupada? Is it from Krishna? Or is it hearsay? Over time, it gets mixed up. It really does. So whenever we hear someone say, they said, it is known, it is said, you know, something, we have to have the originating source, the fact of the originating source. Because the they can be that whoever the they was, whatever the person has shared, may have gone through so many interpretation time after time. So we are just getting probably the, you know, sometimes we read books, especially the textbooks, right, in college and universities. It's always revised by the professor or the author, and they'll say second edition, third edition, fourth edition, fifth edition, and it's revised so many times by the professors, right, or the writers or the authors. So when we hear someone says they, it may have been revised, interpreted, and edited 1,000,000 times. We might be getting the 15,000 edition. We won't even know. And we don't even know if that is actually the original words spoken by the originating source. So it's very, very important, Srila Prabhupada says, that we take it as it is. No interpretation, no if, they said, it said, she said, you know, sources said. It's quite a bit. Whenever I see that, I always ask myself, but who was the they? Where did it come from? Is it the 15,000 edition that we are hearing? So it's very important, Srila Prabhupada said. Srila Prabhupada continues to say that if we want to understand Bhagavad Gita, then we must understand it the same way the person who directly heard from him. So who directly heard the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Arjuna. And if we read the Bhagavad Gita, we can see the mood of Arjuna. He was asking all kinds of questions. Whenever devotees have questions, and sometimes they're very hesitant to ask because they think it's a stupid question. And I always tell them, there is no stupid question in Krishna consciousness. Just ask. Because One might learn from the other. I may learn from the person who's asking. Someone else standing next to me may learn something that the person is asking, right? It never is a stupid question. So if we read the Bhagavad Gita, we can see Arjuna's mood. He was listening so so attentively, right? Listening with real rapt attention, asking every question that he could possibly think of, asking every clarification, understanding from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada is saying we must have that same mood. When we read Bhagavad Gita, we have to learn and ask and understand it the same way Arjuna read it. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, this is called the Parampara system. Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, and this is everything, as I said, I'm sharing is from his class. So I'm very, very blessed and fortunate that I could share this with all of you. Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that supposedly, he says, if I have heard something from my spiritual master, meaning if Srila Prabhupada heard it from his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, and he shares it with us, that is the Parampara system. Now, Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, if my spiritual master told me something, you cannot imagine what my spiritual master told me unless I speak it. We cannot sit and just imagine, oh, I wonder what Prabhupada's guru said. I wonder what Prabhupada's guru mentioned. We cannot sit, we cannot imagine. We will only know when Srila Prabhupada speaks and shares it with us. That is the Parampara system. We cannot imagine what the Acharya said. We cannot imagine what the Parampara system. We have to hear it directly. In fact, if we read in many of the books written by the Acharyas, they will always offer the glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even if we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, he ends I and his name, and he says, offers obeisances and glories to the Supreme Lord. He doesn't take any credit for it. We cannot understand Mahaprabhu directly. It's not possible. We can only understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the Goswamis and the Acharyas. That's why we have books. Imagine in the old days, everything was just said once and it goes ding into the memory and it stays there forever. But today, at least I can speak for myself, I have to read over and over and over and over again for it to go into the stick head. And we have books. The Acharyas have taken the time to write manuscripts after manuscripts after manuscripts and turn it into the books. In Mayapur and Vrindavan, they have something called the Bhaktivedanta archives. And if you go to the place, you will see the old manuscripts written on leaflets and, not papers, and it's all in Bengali and they're translating it, and the papers, the material has old looking edges. It's all archived. Why? Because they were told to write these books for the age of Kali, because we don't have that memory of hearing and restoring it in our head. And then we're good. We have to hear it over and over again. Therefore, we say, we offer our prayer to our spiritual master. Any book you read, any Krishna conscious book you read in ISKCON, all glories are always given to the spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna's verse, the Bhagavad Gita, is none different from Krishna. None different. In fact, he says, Krishna is absolute. Krishna's name is Krishna. Krishna's form is Krishna. Krishna's book is Krishna. Krishna's devotional service is Krishna. Krishna's instruction is Krishna. Everything is Krishna, Srila Prabhupada says. His form, his name, his quality, his instructions, his service, his books, everything is Krishna. And then Srila Prabhupada says, we must understand that. It's none different from Krishna. We must understand that. And what I really like in this verse, in this purport, is the last sentence, where the second last sentence, where Srila Prabhupada says, one should, and I'm going to highlight it here for those of us who are reading it online, one should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. So what does that mean? That means our life should be adjusted around service. Not service adjust our lives. And the more we adjust our activities of life with service, look at the promise that Srila Prabhupada gave us. We are sure to return back home, back to Godhead. So we have to ask our lives. We have to ask ourselves, do I want to adjust my life around the mission of the Lord, around the Lord's services, so that I can go back to the Lord, because he's waiting for me, he's waiting, just like a father, right? We've heard this example. The parent is always waiting for the child to come home. And until the child comes home, they're never in peace. I remember last weekend, our daughters, along with few devotees, they went to the Philadelphia Kirtan. They had the 8-hour Kirtan. And both our daughters decided to drive back rather than stay over, because they had service next day and they had to help me, because we had to cook the Sunday feast. So I needed help. So rather than staying over at a devotee's home, they chose to drive back. And of course, as soon as we heard this news, my husband and I couldn't sleep. Every half an hour, we're calling the girls. Where are you at now? Did you pass this exit? Did you pass that exit? Did you pass this exit? Are you awake? That's the biggest concern is, are you awake? Because by the time they dropped the few of the teenagers and left there, it was about, I think, 11:45 p.m. or something. I forgot, it was very late. And my concern was, and at the time, Manoharini was driving, and we're like, are you awake? Yes, mom, I'm awake. I took a nap. Yes, mom. So every half an hour, my husband and I, neither one of us could sleep. Every half an hour, we're calling, are you awake? Are you okay? Did you pass this exit? So every half an hour, they'll call, okay, mom, we passed this exit. We passed the Ephrata exit. We passed the Middletown exit. And as soon, and see, even Middletown is like, 20 minutes from our house. Still, we're like, no. They walk to the door, only then can it be in peace. So they got back at 1:30 in the morning on Sunday. And as soon as they walked to the door and we heard their footsteps, guess what my husband and I did? We said, they're home, lights out, let's go to sleep, because they are fine. Then one piece. That is what the Lord is waiting for us. The Lord is sitting in Goloka Vrindavan and waiting, just like that. When will my children come back to me? But Srila Prabhupada says, we can surely return back home, back to Godhead, provided we adjust the activities of our life with the mission of the Lord. So our life is adjusting it to the service of the Lord. The service doesn't work according to our time. We adjust our lives according to the service that is needed. What a beautiful promise we got from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada even says, and he was telling this to his disciples, follow the words of my Guru Maharaj and then I become complete. We just got to follow orders. That's it. Then he goes on to say, if one has staunch faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and as much faith in the Guru, then the revealed scriptures become manifest. So which means we have to have faith in Guru and Krishna. If we don't have faith, whatever we read is just going to be a fairy tale. It's like a storybook. We have to have faith in Guru and Krishna. Once we have faith in Guru and Krishna, then the revealed scriptures will make complete sense to us. Then it's going to feel like, wow, I have faith in Krishna's words. I have faith in these books. I have faith in the books that Srila Prabhupada wrote. See, these books are not education. It is not even to become a pundit. It is not even to become a scholar. It is not even to become a preacher, honestly speaking. These books are written for us to have faith, the beginning stages, to have faith in Guru and Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Guru Krishna Kripaya. By the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of Krishna. Guru Krishna Kripaya. And that's coming from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And who is he? None other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha Krishna. None other than him. He is telling us, Guru Krishna Kripaya, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And imagine the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who came as Radha Krishna combined, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even he took shelter of a spiritual master. Why did he have to? He's Krishna. Why? To set the example for us that in order for us to take Krishna consciousness seriously, we need to take shelter of a spiritual master. We need to take shelter of a guru. Lord Chaitanya is giving that instruction, and he is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even if you look at Krishna's life, Krishna went to school. He had a guru, Sandipani Muni, right? Lord Ramachandra, he went to school. Vashistha Muni, right? So if we look at all that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has taken to a spiritual master, has gone to school. So what is my problem? Faith. We have to have faith. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, Guru Krishna Kripaya, by the Guru, by the mercy of Guru and by the mercy of Krishna. It is a question of mercy. It is not a question of scholarship, how intelligent I am. I should have a degree to study this. I have to be rich. I have to, get educated. No, nothing of the sort. If you remember the pastime of the South Indian Brahmana, he was told by his spiritual master to read the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. But he was illiterate. But he took the instructions of the spiritual master, even though he couldn't read. And all his friends would make fun of him because he couldn't read. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was holding the book upside down, I think, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not getting the past tense mixed up here. But he couldn't read. He was illiterate. But he said, my Guru Maharaj said I have to read. So I'm reading. But he cannot read. So one day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw him and noticed that he was holding the book upside down. And then, very nicely, Lord Gauranga asked the South Indian Brahmana, why are you crying? Why are you reading? You're reading upside. Why are you crying? Says, I was given the order by my spiritual master to read Bhagavad Gita, but I cannot read. I don't know how to read. I'm illiterate. And why is he crying? The pictures, just looking, just feeling the separation. And Lord Chaitanya said, you have understood the Bhagavad Gita. What to speak of us? We don't need to be educated to read the Bhagavad Gita. Even an illiterate person like the South Indian Brahmin understood the potency of Bhagavad Gita, just holding it, following his guru's instructions, and not understanding a word because he cannot read. Because he got the mercy of Guru and Krishna. So the whole Bhakti Marg depends on the mercy of the Lord. We have to seek the mercy. We have to beg for mercy. And one who has received a little fraction, lesa, Srila Prabhupada used the word lesa, fraction. Lesa means we know, fraction. Prabhupada says, if one has received a little fraction, he didn't say 1%, 2%, 3%, 75%, a fraction of that mercy from the Lord, he can understand it. I remember for me in my Krishna consciousness, the first few years of my Krishna consciousness, the first, I would say, 10, 15 years of my Krishna consciousness, I didn't have the opportunity to read so much. I did more of hearing classes in the temple because my service was such. I was always engaged in cooking, kitchen service, and deity service. And of course, I had 2 children at that time. So between Grihastha life and cooking for the deities at the temple, this was in Gitanagari, cooking for the deities and doing deity service and pujari service, that kept me very busy. So I didn't have the opportunity to read so much, but I had the opportunity to hear whenever there was classes going on. And I used to always, I'll be very honest with you, I used to always envy devotees who had the time to read, because I didn't have the time to read. Between raising 2 little girls, even though they're 4 years difference, but they were small. Kids, when they're small, they take a lot of tension, plus working, plus doing deity service and pujari service. Kitchen service and pujari service in the temple. I didn't have the opportunity to read much. And I used to envy devotees when they'll come and they'll quote verses in their classes and they'll say that. I used to say like, geez, I envy you guys. If only I had that time. It took me 20-something years to realize that there was no need to envy, because at least I was hearing. That helped me to appreciate, that the Lord has given me that little fraction of opportunity to hear. And later on, by the mercy of the Lord, I'm able to read a bit more now. I had to learn that envy doesn't help. You'll get the mercy. Just keep on serving, So Prabhupada is saying to us that Arjuna, he directly listened. Listen is the key word here. We have to listen. See, there's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is when we hear something, oh, I heard a sound. Like sometimes when we're in the kitchen or when we're in the living room or in the bedroom, we will hear brum, 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 brum sounds. Oh, I heard a sound, right? Here, we heard something from a distance. Listening is when we listen with our ears and we give full attention. Undivided, uninterrupted attention. And that's the reason why we always encourage and guide and help devotees that during class, when we are listening to classes, especially in the temple, we should not be browsing on our cell phones and hearing, because we're not listening. We have to be looking and listening. just as Arjuna. Arjuna looked at the Supreme Personality of Godhead and listened. He didn't look at Bhishma Dev and listen to Krishna. He didn't look at Yudhishthir Maharaj. He didn't look at Duryodhan. He didn't look at anyone else on the battlefield but the Supreme Personality of Godhead and listened. Same way Prabhupada is telling us, we have to listen. We have to look at the person who is speaking and listen. You know, sometimes I don't know if I go through this a lot with my daughters, even up until this very age. It's so funny. Whenever they want to tell me something and I'm multitasking, and they'll say, Amma, you're not listening to me. I said, no, I am. No, you're not listening to me. Listen to me. They will tell me, stop and listen to me. Until today, forget today, up until last night, I still get that point. Ma, I told you the 7 times, you don't listen to me. I said, oh my God, can you say it again? No, I'm not going to tell you again. You sit and remember what I said, you know, listen, undivided attention. Because Arjuna listened to the Lord without looking here, there. So Srila Prabhupada is saying in his lecture, Arjuna, he directly listened from Krishna. So we have to do the same thing as Arjuna did. Only then will we understand the knowledge. Srila Prabhupada says, only then will we understand the knowledge. Now the question is, so the next question that we always have is, how can we increase our faith in Guru and Krishna? Sadhu Sangha. Prabhupada says, Sadhu Sangha. If we keep ourselves associated with the devotees, then the Shraddha, the faith, can be increased. If we simply say, oh, yes, you know, Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, Krishna, you are Bhagavan Stu Swayam. Yes, Krishna, you're all in all. Yes, Krishna, you're this, you're that. But we don't associate with the devotees. We just do everything else but not devotee association. That faith will drop, Prabhupada says. It won't increase, it will decrease. In fact, Prabhupada used the word finish. He says it will finish. Just saying that the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but not associating with the devotees, not taking time to read Srila Prabhupada's books and connect with the devotees and serve at the temple and do devotional service, that faith will decrease. In fact, it will be finished, Srila Prabhupada says. So he says, just to keep the standard, he said, like a temperature, right? We always have to keep warm. You know, like now it's getting a little bit springtime. So now it's like 81 degrees almost and during the day. So what did we do? Many of us, we may have changed the temperature in our house to keep it constant, right? Because if it's 85 degrees outside and the house is burning hot, we're going to be sweating. It's going to bother our consciousness. So to be comfortable, what do? We adjust the in-house temperature so that we are comfortable, constant, standard. So Srila Prabhupada says, same thing. We have to make sure that we are in the right association to increase our faith. That's in fact, so that's the first thing we must believe, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to keep this faith strong and going, we need devotee association. No two ways about it. Because they are the ones that's going to help us grow in devotional life and keep us away from the clutches of Maya, Srila Prabhupada says. Once the faith starts increasing, then we start to worship the Lord, bhajan kriya. We have the desire to want to worship the Lord. And then what happens is, anata nivritti, all the unwanted desires and unwanted thoughts and unwanted attachments and unwanted material stuff slowly start to go away, vanish. Srila Prabhupada uses the word vanish. He says, they will vanish, he says. So once we start to have the faith, then we want to worship the Lord. And once we want to worship the Lord, then all the anathanivati, all the stuff starts, the bad stuff, the attachments, desires, dreams, fantasies, they all will vanish. They all will vanish. And then we are able to actually be able to chant better. So after one is free from all these sinful activities, then we come to the stage of understanding. Whatever we read, we understand. So how can we become free from sinful activities? We must be engaged, Srila Prabhupada says. In order to get away from sinful activities, we have to be engaged in devotional service. We have to replace it. Like I was talking to one devotee a few days ago, and I asked him to help me with something with the temple. And he says, Mataji, I used to do this for the material world. I said, good, do it for the spiritual service now. Dovetailing it. So whatever we used to do for the material world, dovetail it and use it in Krishna's service. So the two things that we have to experience here is hearing and seeing. Listen and see. Right? Like Prabhupada uses this example, a thief. If the thief is in wrong association, even though he knows he'll get caught, he'll steal anyway. Because he's in the wrong association. He says, I know I'm going to get caught, but I'll steal anyway. And I'll tell you, it is very, very common in today's world. I used to work many years ago. I used to work for a bank in downtown Harris, actually at I think now it's called the Harrisburg Mall on Paxton Street. And right behind the mall is the Dauphin County Prison House. And in the bank, prison inmates would come and cash their release checks, they call it. And I've seen, and I worked there for like 2 to 3 years. And I've seen inmates coming not once, but twice, few times to release the checks. And I'm wondering, why is this guy always going to jail? Because they don't mind going to jail. They don't mind being caught. Okay, I'm going to steal. I'm going to be caught. It's okay. Then wrong association. But if someone who knows I'm going to be caught, I should not do it. That means they're in the right association. So we have to execute our devotional service and keep in the right devotee association. Only then can we be free from sinful activities, Srila Prabhupada says. 2 things, engage in devotional service and keep with devotee association. If we have these 2, the faith increases, the desire to want to worship the Lord increases, bhajana kriya, the anatha nivritti starts, all the unwanted stuff starts cleaning out, and we go to the next stage, the ruchi stage, and we go higher and higher and higher. But it starts with 2, Prabhupada says, devotional service and devotee association. So this was my reflection, reading from Srila Prabhupada's lecture, how powerful it is that the 2 main things that we need to always keep is devotee association and devotional service. We have these 2, and this beautiful promise from Srila Prabhupada. Again, it's very powerful for me. One should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. And by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. That is the highest perfection of life. So if we ever wonder and ask ourselves, what is the highest perfection of life? There it is. We adjust our life to the Lord's mission, the Lord's service. Then we got our ticket back home, back to Godhead. So this is my thoughts and my realizations and reflection from Srila Prabhupada's lecture. Thank you so much for allowing me to share the little that I was able to understand. little bit of it. So Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. If there are any questions, any comments, any clarification, any takeaways, would love to hear from you. Please do raise your hand, or you can just, yes, Parikshit, go right ahead.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you for the lecture. And
Guru
you
Krishna.
already highlighted the point that I wanted to talk about. One should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. And by doing this, one is sure to return back home, back to Godhead. And that's the highest perfection of life, which Prabhupada is saying in this purport. So adjusting the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord. What's coming to me means like prioritizing what we have to do in the service of the Lord. That when we have any kind of service, when the time is coming, you have to make sure that we leave at a certain time to go do the service, prepare for the service, whatever it takes. If it means we have to take a shower, we do that, all kinds of things, just to make sure that the service is done with the highest quality possible. That's what's coming to me, but it also shows that we understand our duty in Krishna consciousness. Yes. It also shows that we understand very much. Because if we adjust our life to keep in pace with service, then we are telling Krishna in so many ways, service is very important. Service to you is very important to me. Yeah. Now, how do we get this kind of message? Let me just stamped or very much confirmed or riveted practically in the minds and the hearts of people. How, do you understand what I'm saying?
So you're saying is how can we develop this understanding?
Not only that, but become very convinced of it. That's the point, with the conviction that this is how we have to live our lives. Because sometimes devotees, I'm saying this because it seems, and I'm just saying it seems, I may be wrong, it seems like people are trying to fit service into their lives rather than make service the priority and fitting the rest of their lives into the spaces. So the consciousness should be that service comes first and then the material fills in the blanks. Not material comes first and then service fills in the blanks. You know, the thing, that's the point I'm making. So how do you get people to have that understanding?
I think that's a very powerful question. And I feel from my experience in Krishna consciousness, how it helped me was association, being in the right association and listening. For me, I remember that when I had to do service, and my seniors always taught us how to adjust. First of all, we have to want to listen to receive the instruction. If we don't want to listen, then it's like running into a roadblock, into a wall. It's not going to get anywhere. So first of all, we want to have the desire to want to listen to become a better person, number one. And number two, if we really want to become that kind of a devotee where we can adjust our lives with the Lord's mission, then we have to be in that kind of association with devotees, not with people who says, oh, you know what, don't have to do it, have someone else do it. And I've seen it and I've heard it, and it's very dangerous. So I think it's very important that we choose the right association where people will encourage us to want to come to the stage. It's, and I'm remembering a lecture that was given by Bhakti Tirtha Swami many years ago, and I want to say about 20 years ago, and it's called Who you are is what you attract. So if we want to be someone better, then we should attract people like that. But if we are gossipers, we'll only attract gossipers. If we are losers, we're going to attract losers. If we are fault finders, we'll only attract fault finders. So if we want to want to develop that understanding or understand the importance of adjusting our lives with the mission of the Lord, we have to associate with devotees of that mindset and be open-minded and learn how to get it, how to do it. That's where the faith starts, your Prabhupada says. Because once the faith starts, we're in the sadhu sangha, then all this unwanted anatha ninivriti, right? All this unwanted attachments and desires and this one, where they take precedence over the service, it all goes away. It all starts with Prabhupada said sadhu sangha and hearing. And I have learned that if we're not listening, if we're not hearing and listening, and we are not in the right association, it's very difficult for us to understand the importance of adjusting our lives in the mission, with the mission of the Lord. I hope that helped. You're muted.
Yeah, the association definitely would help because you get that kind of training. But and then this is not to brag or anything, but I had one realization about things about me, that my own cell phone, I have places where I have alarms, and all the alarms that I've set are based on the service that I have to go do.
Yep.
All the alarms are based on the service.
But
Because
it took you so many years of training to get to that stage. Because you were in the right association. You were in sadhu sangha of pujaris who had that mentality, and you got that. So it's all based on sadhu sangha, the right association to learn from the devotees how to become a better servant of the Lord. So we adjust our lives. So yeah, absolutely. That's how
also
we were
one point that Mother Cleany used to talk about, Mother Cleany in Girinagri, was, she's left the body now. One point that she made is that you can get up early, and she had service where you have to get up and milk the cows and so many things she had to do, and then be on the altar later on. So, in the morning, early in the morning, I know Kadamisha would be chanting early to get on. These are all pujaris, and Mother Cleany would go milk the cows. When she said it's easier to get up when you know that you're being depended on for that particular service. And that is the attitude that we all should have, that when the service is there, we are to be thinking we are being depended on to do that particular service.
Yep.
So that is a consciousness that would help us. But of course, we sleep, and sometimes because the service, we get up at a different time that we normally get up, and therefore then our alarm clock becomes an important thing. So we're using the alarm clock for Krishna service.
Yes.
And that's very important. But we should have the mentality that we're being depended on.
Yes.
Being depended on, and that
like this morning, I went for a japa walk, and my little rascal mind, it was only after an hour later, I said, wait, I didn't take my phone. I could have called onto the japa call sangha and chanted my rounds with the japa devotees on a walk. And I said, it was after, and I felt I was going to text Nitya Gopal. I said, Prabhu, I should have taken my phone on a walk and chanted. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but yeah. Any way where we can associate with the devotees while chanting would have been perfect, but somehow I forgot my phone to go on to walk this morning. But thank you. Very, very nice point. Absolutely. A couple of points from Shaurabh on the chat. He says that His Holiness Loknath Maharaj and Radhanath Swami Maharaj always talks about the point of hearing and listening. Absolutely. Hearing is giving full attention, just like Arjuna did on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He didn't look anywhere else, only at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's how he was able to, get everything in. And then he made a second point that's very nice point by Pritchard Prabhu about putting savor first and then fit in the other activities. Yes, because ultimately we are parts and parcels of the Lord, and the goal is to get back to the Lord out of this crazy world. So we have to start adjusting it here, because this is our trial ground, because that's what they do in Goloka Vrindavan. Everything they do over there is to serve the Lord. So we have to do our practice sessions here, how to fit everything in, service first and everything else comes later. Yes, go ahead.
So Hare Krishna, accept on the basis of
Yeah.
So the point is, somebody may be thinking, but I have work and I have to be there at a certain time. Yes, some material things that are necessary for you to keep the body and soul together, those are necessary things to do. So then you have to make sure you do those. But when you have a chance to either go have some fun somewhere, and there's also that same time that could be used, to do things in Krishna consciousness, you should definitely prioritize in such a way the Krishna conscious activity becomes the priority. And of course, when you are fitting your time in, and this is going to come up, this comes because teacher Nitai Goyachandra is here now. And I sent a text sometime back to tell everybody that because the deities are here, our way of, the way we used to do things, is going to definitely change, because they're required to be served. And we were not doing that type of service. Now it's a daily service to them. And so that should be at the back of the mind of every devotee. My life is going to change some because of the deities being here. But we should be very happy that our lives are going to change, because our lives are going to be now such that more devotional service is going to be added to our lives. And the more there are, more devotional service there is, the greater chance of developing love for Krishna and then going back to Godhead. So it's our fortune that they're here, but we should be careful not to have the mind play games with us. No, this and this and this and this, and my life is like this now because the deities have to be like this. And I know some people, they'll fight it. It'll come. We see on the line some of the texts that we see. It's there. It's like, well, I have my plans already. Like they cannot change their plans. But if their plans are for fun, they definitely should adjust those. Work-related fun, work-related activities, yeah, it's not so easy to change those. But the ones that you yourself planned is to go to see part of the material world, And I just said it, just needled it in like part of the material world, like it's such a wonderful place. It's not. So service should become then priority, and those things should not take a back seat. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and we have to adjust it, I mean, there's nothing wrong in those stuff, but it shouldn't interfere with service, especially, that way. As they say, devotional service should be uninterrupted and a haituki, right? Uninterrupted. It should flow without any disruption and interruption, and should be done with no motivation and with full attentiveness. So that's one very important point too. Very important. That's why we adjust our lives, just like how we adjust our lives at home. Whenever a child is sick, or when someone is sick in the house, our whole life changes. I know for me, my whole life changes when one of my kids is sick, and we adjust. Somehow we adjust between work and home and work from home and this and that. We adjust. So that's the same thing, with the Lord, we adjust. Same thing. So we just have to apply what we do in the family life. We flip it over and do the same thing for the Lord. So that's pretty much it. Any other questions and comments from devotees? Any reflections, any realizations, any thoughts that's coming to your mind? Anything that you would like to share, a takeaway, anything? Okay. If there isn't, we thank you all so much for joining us. And we thank you for giving us your time and your attention. Vanchakaptibhyascha Kripasindubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Have a wonderful day, devotees. Hare Krishna. And please, reminding devotees about the Earth Day. We will keep you all updated, but Earth Day is tomorrow, 9 to 3. So please look out for more instructions and for more information. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.